In this video, I'm going to explain to you how to analyse the work of your artists. So you will have chosen 3 or 4 artists to look at, but how do you write about their work and how do you analyse how their work is having an influence on your project? I've created a sheet which looks a little bit like this. Now it's called Mr. Brown's Artist Research Planning and Help Sheet, and it will give you some pointers as to how to write about your artists around your responses. There's going to be another video basically talking about how to present your artist's work and how you're going to show that either in your sketchbook or on sheets. So you're going to have maybe 3 artists or 4 artists, but we'll talk through this sheet in a little bit of detail so you've got a bit of an idea about how to go through it. Okay. So first thing is looking a little bit about some biographical information about your artist. We don't want reams and reams of writing which you've just copied out from Wikipedia. The most important thing really is about why you have chosen the artists you have and why they're having an influence on your project. Okay, so I don't really want to know about where they went on holiday. I don't want to know about what their dog was called. I don't want to know about how many wives they had. I just really want to know about them as an artist. You can have a little bit of biographical information, but not very much. So maybe their name, of course their name, dates, maybe the nationality, maybe a couple of key life events, maybe had an influence on their work. So why have you chosen this artist and designer and how they relate to your theme? That's really important. Why have you chosen this artist? Why does it relate to the theme you've chosen, okay, or the brief you have? What's interesting, unusual about the way they work? What materials do they use? What is your response to their work? And we'll talk a little bit about your response a bit later on in another video. So, you can choose maybe 3 of their bits of work or 1 of their bits of work. What was the title of the piece of work? If it hasn't got a title, you can just keep it as it is and keep it as just artwork and then explain what it was for. If it was for a particular purpose or a photograph, you could just have that. What was the media? So what was it made out of? Is it a photograph? Is it a digital? Is it a painting? Is it a sculpture? When was it made? If you can't find the exact date, maybe the decade. Okay. So include some notes on the subject matter, the mood, the atmosphere, the ideas, the work it relates to. So I've also got a little bit of some other questions here, which I'll talk about for you in a moment, so that you can do some analysis around the outside of the work itself. So let's have a quick look at this to start with. So how are these works different from one another? So it might be quite a good idea to get a couple of bits of their work and refer to either of them and maybe compare and contrast. So how are these works different from one another? Can you compare them to work of other artists? How do you compare them to your own work? You can use some specific evidence to support your analysis, use of colour, how the materials have been used, what ideas are being communicated, for example. The characteristics. What makes the artist's work unique? How might you describe their style? History and world of events. What else or what was happening at the time that influenced the artist? Use this part of the sheet to collect information you need for your artist research. So you can start to use this side of the sheet just to help you out, start to gather some work together. Okay? So you're going to create a piece of work in as your own response, and I'll talk to you about that in your own video. But as well as having your response, you'll need to make sure that you write about what was successful about your practical response to that work. Okay? Why was your work similar, for instance? What colours did you use? Are you happy with it, etc. On the other video, I've also got some examples about how other students have presented these pieces of work as well. So some analysis questions that you might find helpful. So, first of all, remember to write clearly in full sentences. Only write about questions that seem relevant to your artwork. Talking to other people about the work may give you some ideas, maybe people at home, maybe friends. It's good to read other people's opinions, but you must put your analysis in your own words. So, first of all, what do you notice when you look at this work? So if you've got a piece of work in front of you, a piece of artwork, a painting, a sculpture, what do you notice when you first look at it? Why do you think that is? What first jumps out at you when you look at the piece of artwork itself? How has the artist used colour to create a mood, to draw your eye, or to arrange the composition? So when you look at the work, is your eye drawn around the piece of work? Does it give you a mood or a feeling? How have they done that? How have they used colour in their work? Is it very dull? Is it very bright? Have they used complementary colours? Have they used loads of colours or only a few? So what's in the background of the image? How would it be different if this were changed? So has your work got a background to it? Is it very complex? Is it quite simple? How big is the artwork in real life? Does this impact, does this affect the impact of the work on the viewer? So the actual painting itself, if you actually went and saw it in a gallery, it might be huge, but you might be looking at it in a book. You might be looking at it on the internet. Is it very simple? Is it very complex because it's very small? Some bits of artwork are created very, very small indeed, very tiny. How does that affect the impact? Does it draw your attention to it? Because you've got to look at it and focus a very small image. Can you see how the artwork has been made? For example, did the artist choose to make the brushstrokes visible? Why? Do you think it was done quickly? Can you see if they've really taken their time over it? 'Cause it's very, very complex. Did they plan it out in some detail? Did they draw it from life? Has the composition been arranged to form or repeat shapes? The composition is the arrangement of the objects. How have the objects in the picture or the painting or the sculpture or the photograph been arranged? Okay, does it create harmony and stability? Is it jarring or strange? So if things are in a repeat pattern, for instance, if you've got an image of a series of chairs, one after the other, that's a repeat pattern, repeat set of shapes. Is that harmonious? Does it feel harmonious? Or things at funny angles so that it's strange and weird? Does the image remind you of other things? Is this something the artist has done deliberately? So does it remind you of other imagery or other times or other objects? Or is it an abstract picture? So an abstract picture would have no real look to something else different. So it's just going to be something that's a bit odd, but it may still remind you of other shapes and objects. How has light been used to draw attention, for atmosphere, or to create pattern? In photography, that's obviously going to be really important. But light in a painting is also very important where reflections are concerned. How does the artwork refer to events going on in the world at the time? So, for instance, if a painting was painted during World War One, for instance, it may be something that may have influenced the artists themselves. Was it done during apartheid? Was it done during the 1980s? For instance, there'll be elements around the world and world history at the time which may have an influence on why that artist has done the work they have. How does the choice of materials impact the artwork? How would it be different as a photograph or a sculpture? So if a painting you're looking at would be done in a different way, how would they have gone about doing it? What impact would it be if the artist had created the work digitally? Is there anything strange or shocking in the picture? Why do you think that is? Was it strange or shocking to you but not to someone else? Was it strange or shocking to people at the time but isn't now? Is the artist trying to communicate a specific idea or message to the viewer? Can you explain what it is? So, for instance, if you're looking at a particular theme in fine art, it may well be that the artist is trying to give you an idea of a particular thought that they have. Maybe it's about homelessness, or maybe it's about oppression. If it's a graphic design, it's a poster. Is it trying to communicate a particular message about wanting to buy a product? If it's a photograph, could it be a photograph that's giving us an idea about friendship or communication? Can you explain what that is somehow? What are the ideas that come up for you when looking at the work? So if you're looking at a piece of work, does it spur you on to actually create your own artwork yourself about after this? Is there anything about it that inspires you to create more artwork yourself? What's the most important thing about the artwork? Why do you think this is? Is it the message? Is it the shape? Is it the colour? Is it the material? What questions does the work raise? How could you develop a practical piece of work from this? So does the work itself pose questions about a particular issue. Do you think you might be able to create something similar? Imagine that you are inside the artwork. How does it feel if you were in the space or in the place that that artwork is being created? Imagine you are one of the people in the painting. Imagine you're in the image itself. How does that feel? How does the work compare to others in similar materials or dealing with the same subject? So if you can compare and contrast, like I said earlier, to other materials or subjects in other paintings or pictures or adverts or photographs, how could you do that? Does the artwork evoke movement or stillness? So some paintings are very, very frantic and have a kinetic look about them, where things are moving and lots of action is happening. Certainly within graphic design, if you're doing character design in a comic, then you might want to show that. If it's a photograph of a pond, for instance, or a lake, how does it show stillness? Is it the way in which the photographer has used the camera? How has this been done? Do you get a sense of a story behind the edge of the picture? Can you describe what happened before or what happened next? That will certainly be good if you're looking at some old-fashioned paintings, some Renaissance paintings, for instance, where there is a real story behind the image itself. But maybe something has happened before or after which you could try and describe. Does knowing about the artist's life help you in the understanding of the artwork? How? Well, if you read a bit more of the background about your artist, and maybe the works themselves are more autobiographical, that may well help you answer that question. So there's plenty of things there which should spur you on in terms of helping you out writing about your artists and your designers, and your photographers for that matter. Try and use this to help you in the analysis of your artwork itself, because this is going to become more important as you go forward with artwork, for instance, on a page like this. And that's going to be my next video, is talking about your presentation and producing responses to your artist and where you're going to put this analysis on your artist sheet. Thanks so much for watching this video. I shall see you on the next one.